So a colleague once asked me, when configuring devices, how do you know what to configure? How do you know what not to leave out or what not to forget during your configuration? And for questions like this, my answer is pretty much always the same thing. Know what you're trying to achieve or the goal of your setup or your configuration, and then ensure you understand the basics of configuration. The basics will always let you know what to leave out and what not to leave out, right? It's just like in programming as well. If you understand the basics, especially when you're being introduced to programming, IT, things like this, they teach you the basics. So in programming, typically you will learn things like what are variables, how to declare variables. You're going to learn how to define conditional statements, what are conditional statements and how to define them, what are objects, what are classes. That's basically in programming, right? It's the same thing in networking as well. If you're going to be configuring devices, platforms, environments, irrespective of the platform, the basics is very important. Once you know this, you're going to know how to configure whatever device it is that you're trying to configure. So my name is Kenneth and today we're going to be talking about configuration. On my screen I've said that configuration is universal, right? You can configure any device. The only thing that varies is syntax, right? So syntax might vary across devices, but the concepts are the same thing. I've categorized these configurations that you can do, the basics, into various categories that we are going to be seeing, and it will help you understand what you need to configure or what are the basics that you need to know trying to configure any device at all. So some of the categories that I have here include administrative, interface, routing, switching, security, NAT and PAT, quality of service, high availability, management and monitoring, and miscellaneous configurations. So these are the categories that I've done, and please note that some of the setup or configurations that we'll find here are not strictly within one category. Some of them can be found across 2 or 3 categories, but be that as it may, they are the basics of, networking configuration and working with networking devices. So if you know these things, it's really going to help you go far in your networking career, especially if you're starting out or if you're new to IT and networking. So for administrative configurations, we're going to find that these are the most important things that you'll find in while configuring devices. So on any device that you're configuring, you're going to find things like hostname, right? Banner messages, service passwords and secrets, console management and VTY passwords, right? You're also going to find things like service timestamps, AAA configurations, that is authentication, authorization and accounting, two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, backup and restoration configurations. If you know these things, it will be easier for you to configure them on any device. For instance, hostname in Cisco, you just type hostname and then you say what the hostname of that device would be. Banner messages as well, you type banner message of the day, MOTD, and then you type in the banner message. On FortiGate platforms, you navigate to the UI where it has the hostname and you enter what hostname you want to use for that device. So it's the same thing across devices. You just have to know what it is you're configuring, right? Next one is interface configuration. Interface configuration address specific interfaces. So be it on desktops, be it on networking devices like switches, routers, firewalls, you're going to need to configure NICs, right? So a few things that you'll be configuring in NICs would include the network interface name, the description, the IP address that interface would carry, shutdown state, whether it's shut down or turned on. Another one is duplex and speed. Another one is interface mode, be it an access interface or a trunk interface. Grouping of that interface, whether you're grouping it into a VLAN, you're grouping it into a bridge, you're grouping it into an SD-WAN, or whatever it is. Another one is allowed services. So you could allow a couple of services on an interface like HTTP, HTTPS, and also things like management traffic. Next one is routing. So these are not the only configuration you would find in routing, right? So you can find a whole lot more, but these are the basics that you typically find. So things like static routing, dynamic routing, and route summarization. If you understand the concepts of routing, you'll be able to implement them on whatever device. For instance, when you're into a device and you're trying to configure a route, and the device is going to ask you your source, obviously you're going to need to know your destination. You're going to know the administrative distance of what you're configuring. If you want to configure hello, dead time, and all those things, you're going to need to understand what a hello timer is, a dead timer is, an interval is, a beep is, and these would help you to be able to configure routing efficiently. So understanding the concepts of routing would help you understand what to configure in routing. Next one is switching as well. So you have things like, you need to understand VLAN. You need to understand that there are VLAN interfaces. You need to understand that these VLAN interfaces can function as management interfaces as well. Another one is a spanning tree. You need to understand the concepts of root guard, port fast, BPDU guard, and things like this. That will help you understand what you're configuring within that spanning tree instance. Another one is port modes. We've already defined port modes when we talked about trunk links and access links. And the next category we're going to talk about is security and firewall configurations. So obviously these are not the only security configurations that there are, but these are the core ones that you would find, right? You'll find things like access lists, IP access groups. You're going to find things like line, V2I lines, like configuring them to be secure. You're going to also configure account lockout, right? So that if someone tries consistently to log into an account with a password, that account is locked out to ensure that that device is secure. SSH as well. You need to know what version is secure and what version is insecure. Secrets, usernames, password, AAA, VPN, IPsec, and P2, VPN, be it IPsec or point-to-point, right? And another one is firewall policies that determine from where traffic is coming from and where that traffic is going to, right? Then you also have the DNS and web filters that helps filter DNS traffic and web traffic into or out of your network. And that one is antivirus, anti-malware, and traffic inspection. So all these are concepts that you need to understand within security, and which would enable you to configure them effectively on a security device, be it a router or a firewall. Another one is NAT and PAT. NAT, network address translation, and port address translation help you to maximize IP addresses, right? To be able to configure these, you need to understand the concepts of NAT and PAT. So the basic concepts that you typically find are the inside IP addresses. What is an inside IP address? What is an outside IP address? What is a pool? What is a NAT pool? What is a source list? And then what is an access list? So if you understand these things or these concepts, they would help you to be able to configure NAT and PAT effectively, irrespective of the platform. Quality of service. Quality of service ensures that your most important traffic is prioritized, right? So understanding quality of service concepts would help you know how to configure it efficiently. So you need to understand things like class map, policy map. You need to understand service policies. You need to understand traffic shaping and types of shapers, right? So this would help you prioritize traffic. You need to understand things like DSCP as well. The tag within the IP header that specifies that this traffic is special, right? So understanding these concepts, types of shapers as well. So there are shapers that would share a specific amount of bandwidth across a specific number of users, right? So understanding these concepts would help you know how to configure QoS on any device you find yourself on. Next one is high availability and redundancy. Understanding high availability and redundancy concept is very, very important. So high availability helps to ensure that your systems are up, your services are up and running. So for instance, on a router, you would typically find things like hot standby router protocol, virtual redundancy router protocol, and the Cisco proprietary gateway load balancing protocol, which helps you to ensure that if one router fails, the other router takes up, routing traffic within your network, right? To ensure that your network stays up. So another one is high availability. High availability will help ensure that your devices are available and one device is always up. So understanding the concepts like what device should be active, what device should be passive, what device is on standby mode, and how these devices communicate to be able to select who is going to operate in what mode is really, really important. If you understand these concepts, it will help you know how to configure high availability and redundancy. Now, on the switching part, you'll find things like ether channels. Ether channels would help you bundle links between switches up, so that when you bundle these links, you have better traffic and you have redundancy. In case one link fails between a switch and another, there are multiple other links that can help to ensure that traffic continues flowing within the network. Now, another one we have is management and monitoring. So in management and monitoring, you need to ensure that you have visibility. You need to ensure that your observability, you have that within your network. So logging is important. Logging of events, traffic, and things like this is important. Another one is simple network management protocol to be able to manage your devices centrally. Another one is network time protocol to ensure that time within your devices are synchronized, irrespective of where these devices are. You might have multiple branches, locations. You have to ensure that your devices are synchronized and that they have the same clock or time, right? Another one is archiving, backups, TFTP, SCP. You have to ensure that iOS's configurations and things like this, you understand the concept of how to back them up and how to ensure that you can recover these backups as at when needed. IP service level agreement also helps you to monitor performance. So you need to understand the concept or basics of IP SLA so that you are able to configure them within your device. You have observability, which we've talked about. You have fault, performance, and availability monitoring. All these are important to ensure that you understand what is going on within your network, know when there's a fault, know when there's performance degradation, and then know when availability is being impacted in your network. Another one is miscellaneous, right? Miscellaneous, I termed it this because they are other essential features that you would like to have, you typically have within your network. Without some of them, your network might not function optimally, right? So IP helper address, you need to understand what IP helper address is and how it works to be able to configure it. IP helper address helps you to relay DHCP requests from one part of your network to another, right? Domain names, obviously, you know what domain names are for translating IP addresses and domain names. Crypto keys for VPN, IPsec, SSA traffic, and things like this. You need to ensure that you understand how crypto keys work and how to configure them and maintain them within various that would help you to configure it on various devices or platforms. DHCP for issuing IP addresses, and then DNS as well. Now, irrespective of the platform that you're working on, these concepts apply. So you're working on Cisco, Juniper, Huawei, SonicWall, pfSense, Sophos. Irrespective of the platform that you're on or that you're configuring or you're managing, these concepts apply. Some are proprietary, but you would see that the basic functionality is often the same. So understanding the basics of all what we've gone through would help you know how to implement them on whatever platform you find yourselves. And you will also note that this is not only for physical devices. It also works on cloud platforms like AWS. For instance, on AWS, for administrative configurations, you have your IAM, Identity and Access Management, where you uh, grant access, deny access, and all of that. So on various platforms, you have various terminologies that these concepts represent, but they are always the same. They are always the same. So ensure that you understand the basics of this concept, especially if you're new to networking. Understand the basics. It is really important. And then understand the key concepts for each configuration. I've already talked about this key concept. For instance, routing. You have to understand your source, destination, administrative distance, hello time, dead times, and things like this. You understand the key concepts, which would help you know how to tweak the configuration efficiently to suit the goal that you're trying to achieve. So thank you for watching. In the next few weeks, I'll be uploading content on how to configure these concepts on various devices. I'll be using various devices just to show you that these concepts are applied on various devices. So I'll be using devices from Cisco, Fortinet, Sophos. I'll be configuring these things on command line and on GUI so that you know that these concepts can apply on any device, right? So thank you once again for watching, and if these videos make sense to you and help you, please do like, share, repost, comment, and consider subscribing to my channel so that you can get updates when I upload new content. Thank you, and see you in the next one.